this really all fits in one, because people don't move in this kind of straightforward path. So they jump around, which is why, like, when you're analyzing and you're trying to understand these funnels, what you're really trying to understand is just what is the path that somebody is taking to get to that end outcome. Are some of these pieces or some of these steps a waste of time? Like, did we create these emails and are they not clicking on these emails? Like, does this help or does it not help move somebody through this kind of whole journey in this funnel? So I don't know if I actually answered your question. I don't even remember what the question was, but
yeah, you did. I think you illustrated, once you can see the paths, it becomes really obvious, right, what's not working.
Exactly.
Well, wait a minute, 80% of our visitors from our ads are getting here, but they're not getting to the next option or either of the next options. So like, this thing has to be broken. Let's go fix this piece. And we know where to focus our efforts. But I think you just nicely illustrated why people use both HighLevel and Funnelytics together, right? In HighLevel, you can build pipelines, but they are very linear. And so a lot of times people might be in multiple pipelines because, like you said, in the real world, people take, a variety of paths to make their way towards the goal. And Funnelytics, you can kind of see it all at once in a bird's eye view type of thing. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the High Level Spotlight Sessions, where we showcase awesome marketers doing awesome marketing. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Mikael Dia. He's the founder and CEO of Funnelytics, a visual customer journey mapping and analytics tool. Mikael, thanks so much for coming on.
What's up, Chase? How are you? Good.
I'm excited to have you. I think a lot of our community have probably heard of Funnelytics before, if they haven't used it already. So pretty popular in the community, I would say. I'd love to kick it off with the backstory. How'd you get into building such a laser-focused piece of software? Do you come from the agency world?
I do, actually. I do come from the agency world. A little bit of the backstory. I kind of became obsessed with just digital marketing as a whole in early 2010, late 2009. I used to run a t-shirt company. I say company, but really we just hustled t-shirts, me and a few friends. We printed
every
a bunch.
College guy's dream, right?
Exactly. That's basically what it is, right? It was me and a couple of buddies during college years, and we had these t-shirts, and I've shared this story a couple of times, but basically our friends and family bought all of our t-shirts, and like we sold out really, really quickly for our first batch. And here we are thinking, man, this business is easy. This is so simple. Why are people fretting about like making money and all that stuff? So we ordered boxes and boxes, like, I mean, stacks all the way up to the ceiling of t-shirts. And our friends and family didn't want any more t-shirts. They already bought t-shirts, so they supported us. So now we were sitting there like, how the hell do we sell to strangers? How do we get rid of these? And it kind of led me down a little bit of a rabbit hole of like, how do you build an online website? How do you sell online? How do you kind of make that happen? And this is about 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. And back then Google wasn't as stringent with like what happens when you search how to sell online. So I went down these rabbit holes of like making money online, making $10,000 from the beach, doing all sorts of stuff. So that's basically the thing that at the time I was an engineer. So I was like, I really didn't like my job. So it's like, could I make $10,000 a month from a beach compared to going and being an engineer? Sounds pretty sweet to me. And I learned about like SEO. I learned about pay-per-click advertising. I learned about affiliate marketing. I learned about, eventually went down came across a guy named Russell Brunson, which everybody knows in the ClickFunnels world, and started learning about funnels and started learning and understanding all these little pieces of the art, I guess, and the science behind turning a stranger into a customer for your product or your service. And I eventually ended up in London in the UK. I started a Mandarin language school, which is a whole other story. And I started applying a lot of these principles. I don't speak Mandarin, by the way. I saw the face you just made. I don't speak Mandarin. I've never been to China, but I did start a Mandarin language school. But I started applying a lot of these principles around kind of digital marketing to that, and it started growing and it started working. We were able to figure out how to advertise to the right audience, how to bring them and turn them into leads, how to nurture and how to ascend them and get them into sales conversations, and then sell them into our services. And I became pretty good at it. So I decided to run an agency and start an agency where I would help businesses with this. I realized that a lot of people don't think about digital marketing in a journey. They think about digital marketing in tactics, SEO, social media, pay-per-click advertising, landing pages. They think about these pieces, but they don't think of it as a holistic journey of how do you, again, take this stranger who's never heard of you, turn them into a customer. And this is what I would offer for my clients. We would map out their funnels. We would show them exactly what we would build for them, the pages, the emails, the traffic sources, etc. And then we would go and launch these funnels. We'd start driving traffic, and we'd look at data, and we'd start looking at where is it working, where is it not, what do we need to kind of look at and start thinking about. And the interesting thing that I did with all of my clients was nobody understood what I was talking about when I would say like funnels, or I would say we're going to build these landing pages and people are going to give you their email, and we're going to build an email list and send them emails and get them to a webinar or whatever it was in terms of the actual strategy. But then what I decided to do is I would take these little icons and I would put them on a PowerPoint presentation. I went on Fiverr and I got a bunch of little icons that one represented a page, one represented a Facebook, and one represented an email. And I started putting these on a PowerPoint presentation. I would say to my client, this is what I'm going to do for you. You see this goal right here of getting somebody to pull out their credit card and purchase? Well, these are the steps that we're going to push people through in order to make that happen. That's when they were like, I get it. Okay, here's some money, right? So we basically did this as our agency, but then when it came to analyzing the data, when it came to seeing what's working, what's not, you'd log into Google Analytics, you'd log into your CRM, you'd log into all these different platforms that threw charts and graphs and spreadsheets at you. And you're like, how do I dissect this? How do I actually understand what's working versus what's not? Wouldn't it be really cool if I could just overlay all of my data on that same map and see conversions and see how many people move from this step to this step and just see where the bottlenecks are? That was the idea for Funnelytics. It basically became the thought process. Wouldn't it be cool if
What year was that?
This was the idea came to me and I started thinking about it in 2016, I think around 2016. I started my agency in 2015, started thinking about the idea of Funnelytics in 2016. I hired a developer to start like tinkering with it very slowly while I was running my agency at the beginning of 2017. And I launched the first kind of prototype in 2018.
Wow, cool. I'd love to unpack that a little bit because I think it's so interesting to me how many marketers still to this day haven't kind of really wrapped their head around the importance of a funnel.
Yep.
Even the word itself. I'd be curious if I asked you, what's the difference between a funnel and a website? What would be your response?
I like to define it as a funnel is a series of steps that you take somebody through to get them to the core goal that you're trying to get them to. So whether that's them putting in their name and email on a form, or that's them purchasing something on your site, it's the deliberate series of steps that you've structured to get somebody from point A to point B. A website is a showcase of what it is that you can do, what it is that you offer, that they're allowed to kind of go at their own pace. So I kind of like to look at it as, in like the real world, a regular clothing store versus a car dealership. So typically what happens in a car dealership is you step into the car dealership, there's a few different things in front of you, but then the sales rep will come, they'll start understanding what it is that you want, and they'll start guiding you towards the car that will be the best fit for you. Then once they get you to sit and experience it and all that stuff, they move you into their sales office. And once they have that conversation and you kind of haggle, eventually you either agree or
a lot of credit report.
Yeah, exactly. They'll do the credit report. You don't buy there, so they'll do some follow-ups, and eventually it leads you to the sale. But that sequence is very, very deliberate. It's architected to get you to that sale. When you think of walking into a clothing store, nobody's greeting you. You basically say, here you go, here's everything that we offer. You figure out what it is that you want and come to the checkout and buy it if you're interested, right? The clothing store is your website. The car dealership experience, or at least a good car dealership experience, is a funnel in a sense. So
I like that.
That's how I like to think about it.
In HighLevel, we started with the funnel builder, and then people were so confused about, like, can I build websites? And we're like, well, yeah, it's the same thing essentially. So we just kind of like renamed it, and now there's funnel builder and website builder. They essentially build the same thing, but that's exactly how I describe when someone asks, is a funnel is a website that's made to, the pages are made to be gone through sequentially, right?
Exactly.
And like you said, a website is more like browse at your, at your leisure, go wherever you want, find your own way around. But I think when we look at a marketer's goal in general, I feel like for years, we as agencies or consultants were kind of just like, yeah, I've got this stable of services that I can provide. They're all beneficial. Which ones would you like? And, you might pick SEO and I need a website or ads and whatever. But then we kind of all realized, well, wait, like, there is a funnel to be created here, right? Like, let's get an offer, we'll run an ad, people will claim it, we'll nurture them into a booking or a survey or something, and then we'll try to get them to buy. And I think most marketers understand that, right? Like, let's build a path to conversion for you.
Yep.
But I'm still surprised at how many marketers haven't grasped the power of flipping that path up vertically and being able to see the drop off at each step.
Yeah.
I mean, and describe for us the power of having a visual funnel that's set up correctly and functioning.
Well, here's the thing, right? When I think of funnels, what you're kind of talking about, that traditional, like, it actually looks like a funnel, like a top, middle, bottom type of funnel, or tofu, mofu, bofu, and stuff like that. I think the main thing that is a little bit confusing with that is, because it's one visual representation, your brain instantly starts assuming that there's only one path people take. But that's not really what happens. What really happens is there's multiple ads that feed the top of that funnel. And if you're lucky and you've been able to architect your structure where literally the top of the funnel is one opt-in page before they move on to the next one, which is one webinar that you're hosting, and then the next one is one order form, and then they buy, then it becomes this linear thing. But for most businesses, they have multiple ads coming. They have maybe 2, maybe 3 different lead magnets that they've created. Maybe they have a website and there's content generated over on that website. And there's multiple ways that people can opt in. And once they get to the next stage, now they're sending people to a webinar, or they're making them buy this next thing. And once they bought that, then there's an ascension or whatever it may be. There's email sequences that come. They didn't really buy, so we got to set up retargeting ads. And And then you start to realize that each of these phases, each of these steps in this kind of funnel, there's actually multiple touch points. There's pages, there's traffic sources, there's actions that people can take. Maybe they watch a video, maybe they don't watch the video. Do they click on this button? Do they not click on this button? Do they fill out this form? Do they not fill out this form? And when you start architecting or visualizing each of these individual steps, that's where people start getting confused with the idea of a funnel, because really these, let's say 10 potential steps. So all of these pieces of content, this webinar registration page, these retargeting ads, all fall in that top bucket. And then next phase is there's the webinar itself. There's all the follow-up emails. There's all the second set of retargeting ads. There's all the other content that you have for sales and follow-up in the pages. That falls under that second step. And it's hard to group them. It's hard to basically say this really all fits in one, because people don't move in this kind of straightforward path. So they jump around, which is why, like, when you're analyzing and you're trying to understand these funnels, what you're really trying to understand is just what is the path that somebody is taking to get to that end outcome. Are some of these pieces or some of these steps a waste of time? Like, did we create these emails and are they not clicking on these emails? Like, does this help or does it not help move somebody through this kind of whole journey in this funnel? So I don't know if I actually answered your question. I don't even remember what the question was, but
yeah, you did. I think you illustrated, once you can see the paths, it becomes really obvious, right, what's not working.
Exactly.
Well, wait a minute, 80% of our visitors from our ads are getting here, but they're not getting to the next option or either of the next options. So like, this thing has to be broken. Let's go fix this piece. And we know where to focus our efforts. But I think you just nicely illustrated why people use both HighLevel and Funnelytics together, right? In HighLevel, you can build pipelines, but they are very linear. And so a lot of times people might be in multiple pipelines, because like you said, in the real world, people take, a variety of paths to make their way towards the goal. And Funnelytics, you can kind of see it all at once in a bird's eye view type of thing. But I think what's most important for marketers to understand is, and again, it's always shocking to me how many people aren't utilizing pipelines or a tool like Funnelytics, because if you can't see it from a quick glance, then you don't really know where to focus energy, right? Like, if you're just looking at are we meeting the end goal or not, and you're not, let's say, how would you know where to go start optimizing, right? Like, how would you know what to fix if you can't see it?
Yeah, and I find that a lot of marketers, it's very easy to get caught up in the whole world of ROAS and return on ad spend. But the reality is, that tells you that this one ad contributed to some revenue. But what happened in between the time that this person clicked on this ad and eventually went and purchased? What was the path that they took in order to get to that end purchase? Also, are they all created equal? Does that mean that if you use, I really, we can go down a rabbit hole when it comes to attribution models and all that stuff if you want to go there. But what you rarely start to ask yourself is, okay, if this ad is converting, let's say I spend $1 to get somebody to click on this ad, and I'm able to make $3 back. Okay, great. I got 3-to-1 return on my ad spend. But that certainly doesn't mean you can now spend $10,000 and get $30,000, or spend $100,000 and make $300,000. It doesn't work that way. There's always a law of diminishing returns at some stage when you start to scale ads. So what you need to understand is, when somebody does click on that ad, what do they do next? And what do they do next? And is it all linear? Does everyone do the exact same thing? I can guarantee you that 99.9% of them do not do the exact same thing. Somebody may click on that ad, go to your site, delete the URL and just go to your homepage. And then somebody may then go on Google and Google you to see what comes up when they put in your email. Then they land on another blog post from you, or they go on a review site, and then that sends them back to your website. And then they go and register for your webinar, and then they buy, even though your ad tried to get them to register to the webinar right away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't understand that, if you don't realize that that is actually the journey that most of these people are taking, you're just sitting there and saying, cool, let's just throw more money at this one ad and hope that it works. And that's why a lot of people cap out when they start spending money on ads. It doesn't scale.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And that's kind of like, for me, one of the funnest parts about funnel marketing is when you find those nuggets of information. You're like, whoa, 90% of the people that end up hitting this review page go to the next step or whatever. We need to put more focus on this review page in our funnel. Like, let's shift this up or put it in the ad, or exactly. You know what I mean? Like you can find these insights once you can see the journey. I'm fascinated though, how much of a technical challenge was this to figure out for Funnelytics? Because I mean, tracking people, especially now post the iOS 14 update, right? When you're talking about, oh, they left, stripped parameters out of the URL because they're going over here and then they're coming back. Like, it's a nightmare to try to track all of that.
Yeah, it is. It is a nightmare. It is really, really difficult to ensure that continuity is there. We try to do a few different things within the platform. So we've got basically 3 core components to our core platform. So we've got our base tracking script that when somebody hits your site, will pull all of the different parameters, and we'll basically assign an ID to that person, user ABC XYZ. They're added into what we call our profile API. So basically think of it like a CRM. Although we don't send messages or anything like that, but think of them as user ABC XYZ is now added to this profile API. At some stage, they will become a lead and put in their name and email. So now user ABC XYZ becomes Chase at gohighlevel.com. And based on that, we've got what we call an event processor, where if, let's say, an event happens in HighLevel and Chase has moved from a deal stage A to deal stage B, well, we can now push that back into Funnelytics and show you that Chase went to that stage. So it's a continuous battle to figure out, how do you keep these sessions intact? How do you make sure that, Chase, who was user ABCXYZ, who then hops onto his iPhone and clicks, is no longer, user 12357, and they're actually the same person. And it's about figuring out where are these identifiers and kind of stitching that together. That's kind of what we focus on and what we try to do across the entire customer journey. Is it 100% accurate? It can't be, right? But when you do get the lead into your pipeline and you have that name and email, now it becomes a lot more accurate because we know who they are and we can identify them based on the events that they do. But like, it is a continuous challenge because privacy policies are continuously changing. They are getting harder to kind of navigate. But as we continue to build more integrations, be able to kind of keep building more robust profiles, find different identifiers, that's how we solve it at Funnelytics.
I'm assuming HighLevel makes it easier for you, right? Because we can webhook out off of any action and workflows. I'm assuming we can webhook that data to Funnelytics, and you can kind of grab it and be like, oh, cool. Thanks for filling in that missing puzzle piece for us.
Exactly. So whenever something happens on a Go HighLevel page or a pipeline or whatever it is, you send an SMS, we can, we use our webhook and, okay, cool. Like, now we know that this occurred with Chase, even though it occurred offline, right? You didn't actually do anything. It was the salesperson who moved you from stage A to stage B, but now that event has occurred within your journey of your profile. And now I can take that and put it on the canvas and say, Chase started off on this Facebook ad because we saw him through these different parameters on this site as user ABC, and then eventually landed in stage B. And I can connect that and I can say, okay, this is part of Chase's journey, and I can visualize it on the canvas.
I love when it gets to those points, when it gets super exciting, because it's like, you know, now you can do the full funnel, right? Like imagine filling out a Panda doc at some point is part of the funnel, right? Realistically, they have to go through that stage in order to get to the goal. Well, you know, through Zapier or webhooks or HighLevel or whatever, we can tie that kind of all together. And when you're able to present that to a client, you know, and show the full story,
it's cool.
I mean, it's a quantum leap forward compared to what most businesses have seen.
Yeah, we can show you, like, even this. We are on this Zoom call, and we can tie that back because of the email that I used to log into this Zoom call, that this was part of my journey within the Go High Level. I received the emails to get prepped for this. I clicked on one of them that sent me to a page. So you could see my entire journey all the way to me attending this Zoom call and seeing it in real, like in that flow. That's where it becomes really cool, being able to look at offline all the way through online, because funnels don't end when somebody just pulls out their credit card and buys something on an order form for a $47 course or ebook, right? Like, yes, we're taught from the ClickFunnels world and all that stuff that, like, you've got your free plus shipping funnel, you've got your webinar funnel, you've got your front end tripwire funnel, or whatever it may be. And but the reality is, it's really about the entire customer journey, from the moment they click on something and interact with the very first asset to them a year later still being part of your ecosystem and attending a live Zoom call or whatever it may be, right? The more we can take that and be able to visualize it, because you clearly stated earlier, when you visualize it, you get it, you understand it, you can see it. When you just look at numbers, you're like, I don't really know what this means or what I should be thinking about. So yeah, that's our mission, that's our vision, is basically being able to do full-on journeys and visualize the entire end-to-end journey.
You guys, I'm curious, because one technical challenge I'm curious to see how our team is going to approach. They're going to start working on it soon if they haven't already. Is for me, I like to help people think, hey, like, your funnel doesn't end after the first purchase, right? You want to get a review, you want to get a repeat purchase, right? So reviews are something that happen on a third-party system. And so do you guys do stuff like that, where you're kind of like looking like, hey, we know a review was generated, let's try to match this name back to somebody in our database?
Yeah, at this stage, no, we don't kind of scrape review sites or anything like that. It's all based on data that gets passed into Funnelytics. So, you know, again, webhooks or our own tracking script or our own events that we look at. But you're 100% right. Like, it would be really cool if there is ways to start thinking about, somebody went to Capterra or G2 or whatever the site may be, they left a review, and ultimately that is your goal for the customer journey, is like, how do you then know that that person is the person who left that review? It would be interesting. So
yeah. So I love to ask people, SaaS folks, about, like, off the top of your head, crazy customer memories or stories. Like, have you seen, can you recall, is there a customer or an instance that jumps to mind of, like, the craziest mapped funnel you've ever seen, or like the biggest epiphany that you've seen come out of a funnel?
Twofold. When it comes to agencies, specifically consultants, people who sell services, I think the biggest aha moment that I get with everyone is when they visualize it for a client, when they show them on a whiteboard what it is that they're going to do for them. So when they take the pages that they're going to use and build in Go High Level, or like the SMS sequence and all of that stuff, clients don't understand that, right? They understand like a page, they understand like Facebook icons, they understand these simple things. So when you visualize it in a flow, it is one of the simplest, fastest ways for you to get a client to say yes, and to get a client to say yes at higher prices, at premium prices. And the main reason for that is because, again, they're seeing the picture, they get it. They're not trying to justify, well, you're going to post 5 times on Facebook for me for every week. I don't know what that means exactly. Well, these 5 posts lead here and that leads there. And that's how we get to this aha moment. Another cool thing that people have done with Funnelytics is there's some cool plugins on Chrome where you can inject like tracking scripts in like a one-time front end way. So I can actually take Funnelytics, I can inject the tracking script using a Chrome plugin, and I can browse through your website, and then I can go back into the platform and actually put all of the steps that I went through, so I can visualize my personal journey without installing anything on your website, without doing anything. But again, that opens up your prospect's mind around, oh, I understand what you're about to do for me. I understand what's happening. But have I seen people map some of the craziest stuff? Like, yeah, there's some people who have maps in Funnelytics that are like thousands of icons, like thousands of steps. I always look at those, I'm like, it's insane. Like, what are you trying to, like, it's cool art. It looks cool. It looks very, very unique. But I mean, there's no way whatever it is that you're about to do, it's clearly just conceptual and it's for strategy, because there's no way that you've got enough traffic for people to go through all of these crazy steps that you've architected. The interesting thing though, the people who make the most money always have the simplest funnels. They have almost nothing. It's actually kind of frustrating for me as somebody who's built this cool infinite canvas that you can map all sorts of touch points, because they really have like a very, very robust set of defined steps that they try and push their customers through. And they just optimize the crap out of that. They just continuously make it better and better and better. We've got a client who does very easily $25 million a year, and their entire business is 3 pages. And it's like, yeah. And like they visualize it in Funnelytics, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I can see it. There's only so much I can give you in terms of insights. It's not like there's very many paths people can do, but like their entire business is 3 pages and then eventually a sales conversation. And the ones who have all of these individual steps, it looks really, really cool, but it very rarely works.
It's really interesting, right? I mean, a website that's 3 pages sounds so simple, but when you think about how many different ways there are to do it, if you were to go in and say, okay, let's test the conversion rates on different paths here, we could say maybe page 2 is a pre-recorded webinar. Maybe page 2 is like a choose your own adventure survey. Maybe page 2 is a whatever. Like there's a million different ways to do this stuff, right? Absolutely. So saying a 3-page funnel, like, oh, what? That's ridiculous. No, they've probably tested a lot of those things I just described and have with data proven the ones that, the ideal path that people want to take that leads to that many sales.
I think one of the lost things with especially as marketers is we tend to get extremely excited by the tactics, and we want to test and try new tactics and throw new tactics against the board. What we don't do is spend enough time really analyzing and optimizing the tactic. A lot of times it takes a really long time to get something working and to get something right and to keep fine tuning it to make it work in the way that you want to make it work. And I look at the Go High Level site, you guys haven't changed or added multiple links at the top. You haven't converted it into a typical SaaS website. You've really looked at just continuing to refine this particular page, you haven't really changed it in a really long time, but it works, right? Why break something that already works? And a lot of
Don't
times,
think we haven't tried to. It just fails the test a lot, to be
well,
honest. And it's really frustrating. Yeah, we want to move to a more traditional site, but the fact of the matter is the classic funnel design curve converts better.
I know, and it's frustrating because it's like ugly, and like it's like, oh, this is boring, especially for the marketer on the team, right? The marketer is like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I'm sorry guys, I'm trying, but like nothing, like we should go this way, we should go that way. I think one of the things that it's because it's boring in the sense that not the funnel itself, but optimization is boring. It's let's try this version versus this version, and oh, okay, that didn't work, so let's try this. But it's not, let's throw this tactic and this tactic and this tactic, let's go and do content, let's go and do paid ads, and let's go and try LinkedIn, and let's try whatever webinars or whatever. Russell Brunson talks a lot about this in his books and all that stuff, is just do one webinar and do it until you make $1 million, and don't change your strategy until you make $1 million from that one webinar.
Mm-hmm.
For most people, that's really hard. And it's not because it's actually hard, it's because mentally you're bored. It's like, I've already done this webinar 4 times. I don't want to do it again, right? Like, but that's what you got to do. You've got to really be disciplined enough.
And I mean, I think you've sort of fleshed out why, in my mind, and I think most of our minds, it's such an advantage and an opportunity for agencies, right? Especially if you niche. If you work for a while, we used to work with a lot of med spas, but we also worked with a bunch of chiropractors. And when you've got 10 different chiropractic websites that you can test the different things across the 10 of them and quickly find out which one works, and then go prove that it works on the other chiropractor sites. Well, now, we used to have a funnel that ran you through this back pain calculator thing, and it was this visual survey, and it worked fantastic. Once you get it to the point where it's going to work for every chiropractor, the ad, the landing page, the survey, the nurture sequence, the whole thing, and then you can lay the visual journey map on top of it, right? I loved what you said of like, when you show that to a client and they can see it and they go, oh, so wait, you're going to show me that every month, right? And you're like, yeah, you can see this whenever you want, right? Log in and you can see where everyone's at in the process. That's like sold, because I've never had that visibility before, right? I'm always just getting like you said, spreadsheets emailed to me. I don't have time to sift through a spreadsheet to figure out, what's really going on here. But a visual map where you're confident because it's going to work, because you've done it with 20 other chiropractors, and they're thrilled because they can actually see it for the first time. It's a very easy way to generate clients and retain clients for longer periods of time.
Yeah, it's also, it's interesting too, because the reality is most tactics don't work right away. And one of the coolest use cases of Funnelytics, at least Funnelytics 1.0, and we're reintroducing this eventually in Funnelytics 2.0, we had built a really cool kind of forecasting tool where you can kind of just input your conversion rates across the funnel and see how many people move through that, kind of like a Guru. And what's interesting is I can actually compare, I can basically take my real data, input it into the simulator, and then tweak some numbers and see what the output would be. So
cool sales tool.
Yeah, because and a retention tool, because what happens is when you just give a client, hey, we spent $10,000, we made $11,000 back, they're just gonna say, okay, so you made me $1,000. What are you going to do next week? Well, next week we're going to try and run a test on your homepage to see if we can get more leads, right? They're sitting there and they're like, okay, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't understand it. But when you take the actual map and you can see, here's all of my pages, here's my ads, here's the purchase. Look, here's what's happening. Here's how many people get to these steps. this step right here is converting only at 20%, but if we were able to crank that up to 25, this is how much money you'd actually be making. So over the next month, what we're going to work on is running a test right here to try to get this from 20 to 25%. Now the client's like, I get it. Here's another month's worth of revenue or another month's worth of services, right? So they're more likely to stick because they understand. You're educating them as you're kind of going through that process.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And as I mentioned, I love it also for the sales process because, at least for us, like let's say the bottom 3/4 of the funnel, we would throw in the average stats that we had from all of our clients, right? And it's like, okay, when they get to the quiz thing, they typically are going to convert at that stage at this percentage. And then the next step at this percentage. The variable is going to be your ads, right? Every ad costs different in every market, especially if we're talking Google ads. So we don't know exactly, but we can estimate it's going to cost about $2 to $3 to get the lead at the top. And then we'll quickly know the math the rest of the way. So what are we going to be doing next month? We're going to be working to get that top number down so that, we can get you into the band that we see across the rest of our clients, where you're putting in, like you said, $1 and you're getting $4 back, and everybody's happy, and we're going to have a long, happy relationship together. We didn't really have it visual though back then to be able to kind of show them, right? I think we had like a PDF diagram or whatever. This was 10 years ago at this point.
Or you create like a fake Excel calculator.
And
then it's all simulation. And the client's like, well, the calculator says it's true, so it must be true.
Exactly. Yeah. So I know we're coming up on time. I feel like I have to ask everybody these days, as we head into, we're filming this in early January of 2023. AI, it's all the rage. Is AI, do you have your eye on it? Do you envision anything cool it's going to be able to do for Funnelytics or funnels in general? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've got a lot of opinions when it comes to AI. Right now, I think we are in the age of obviously AI content when it comes to Chat GTP and what is it, Jasper, and which basically is the same thing. We're in the age of what is real versus what is artificial content, or human, I should say, versus artificial content. And I think that's going to be our biggest kind of battle in the next year to 2 years. Google, I think we're going to have like anybody who uses AI to build blog posts should be careful, because Google's not like they're going to find a way to identify that content, and they're going to penalize you like they did back in 2008 with like their Google slaps for all those backlinks and all that stuff. So I think that is something we need to be very conscious about. In terms of data-driven AI, like that's, to me, the exciting part, right? We track a lot of data points. I think we track about 450 million data points every single month for our customers. And there's so many opportunities to generate insights based on those data points that a person can't derive. Like they'd have to figure out what questions to ask when the machine can figure it out and kind of just basically say, if you were to spend $5 more per day on this ad, you could generate this much more revenue. Or if you were to tweak this, you could, make this. Or even having like pages start to optimize and start running tests and experiment themselves. That's where I think is going to get really, really exciting. But we're not quite there yet when it comes to AI-driven insights, but that's certainly from our standpoint of vision.
Do you think, and I'm not an engineer, so this is completely over my head, but
me neither, by the way. So
it seems like it could, I'm really fascinated when I see engineers talking about like Chat GPT and things where it's like, oh, write me a Python script that does these things, and it just spits it out. And they're like, boom, just save me 20 minutes. Like, what if we could get to a point where AI could help on the back end solve some of those matching challenges, right? Like, is this the same person, right? And maybe the AI is pulling from a bigger database, and it's like, yeah, I know that someone named Chase Buckner uses these 3 IP addresses repeatedly. And so with 90% accuracy, you can go ahead and say that's the same person in your system there. To me, that kind of stuff is going to be crazy. Like once that becomes commonplace.
Where do you draw the line in terms of privacy in that stage, right? Like that's the never-ending debate where people want privacy, or so they think they want privacy. What they really want is customized experiences, which means that you can't ultimately have privacy. But in the media and what we talk about, Apple, iOS devices, privacy, it's all about privacy. But the reality is, on the marketing end, we don't want privacy because we want to be able to deliver the most tailored experience that increases the highest conversions, because it's based on what you want, when you want it, at the right time. And it's going to be this never kind of, I don't know where it's leading, but it's certainly an interesting debate. Would I love to be able to use AI to stitch profiles and invade in people's privacy a little bit so I can give them more higher conversions and better insights? Absolutely. Will it happen? We'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. Mikael, do you guys, Funnelytics.com is the .io is the URL.
Yep.
What do you guys have going on these days? Do you have any, if people are listening and they're like, you know what, I should really get more serious about building out visual maps and things like that. Do you have an academy or somewhere people can go and learn to get started?
Yeah.
Where should people head?
Have, if you go to hub.funnelytics.io, we have our kind of centralized hub. We've got a ton of content, a funnel library in there. We've got a bunch of expert spotlights and a lot of stuff in there from an academy standpoint. You can always go to funnelytics.io and sign up for our free mapping tool. It's completely free. You can always just create an account, play around with the mapping tool, and you can always sign up to our performance light level, which is basically the entry level to start tracking your pages, your traffic sources, start visualizing it on the canvas. And we're constantly improving the tool. We're constantly making it better and trying to help the market. So that's
very
kind of
cool.
our core focus.
I know a lot of people like to use that free mapping tool as like a mind map, like strategize and things like that. Very cool.
Yeah, man.
Well, Mikael, thanks so much for coming on to chat it up, funnels and marketing with us. I could go on forever, but I do want to be cognizant of your time.
Me too. All good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Of course. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.